Support for this episode comes from UNCSA's School of Filmmaking. Tell your own story. Master the art of storytelling at the UNCSA School of Filmmaking, ranked the top public film school in the nation by The Hollywood Reporter and ninth best overall. At UNCSA, students learn to craft compelling narratives across genres, styles, and mediums, all while utilizing cutting-edge technologies. Graduates are skilled in every aspect of the cinematic arts and specialize in areas such as cinematography, directing, and screenwriting. From day one, UNCSA supports student projects with financial and technical resources, helping the next generation of filmmakers turn their dreams into reality. The hands-on curriculum is taught by industry professionals with decades of real-world experience. And every day is a networking opportunity with guest artists like Oscar-winning actor Troy Kotsur and Disney screenwriting legend Linda Wolverton. Filmmaking graduates go on to excel in their fields, becoming innovators, leaders, and creative forces in the industry, like Danny McBride and Jeff Nichols, or Emmy award-winning sound designer Will Files. Unleash your creativity. Visit uncsa.edu/filmmaking to start your journey.
What do you do, Kev? Because you got to fill that gap in seconds, right? Because the camera's about to roll.
Yeah.
What did you do?
I thought of something Jodie Foster said once she directed that movie, Little Man Tate.
Yeah.
And she told that kid, the lead actor in the movie, who was her little boy in the movie.
Yeah.
And she said, acting is just pretending really hard. And I just pretended really hard.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Kevin Corrigan is an actor. This is his 7th time on the podcast. His other episodes are number 268, 234, 185, 133, 67, and the very first episode. He sat down with me on the Upper West Side of Manhattan to talk about the work.
It's been 355 days since we last sat down together.
Oh, man.
What is the most impactful moment that has happened in those 355 days in terms of your work as an actor?
I had a scene with John Costello's son, Dion Costello, who is a movie star. He is such a beautiful man, actor, and just person. And I met him probably when he was 14. He's about 34 now. So we're talking 20 years ago. John brought him out to LA because he was kind of like, he's going to be 15 soon. He's going to be, he's not going to want to hang out with me for too much longer. So I thought we'd take this trip together.
Yeah.
And John would bring him out to Venice because he was into like skateboarding and stuff. And he wanted to bring him to like the birthplace of the skateboard movement or whatever. And so I met him at that time. He has a brother who I'm also friends with. I kind of, made a point of staying close with those guys after their father passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And now one of them is a fireman and one of them is an actor. Mm. And John was both of those things.
Oh, wow.
And I met John right around the same time I met Steve Buscemi.
Mm-hmm.
So this year, just 2 months ago, in October, I worked for 4 weeks on an independent film called Tiger, and I played this kind of like guy who owns a bar, and it's sort of intimated that he's a gangster or something. And it's mainly, you know, Tiger is his daughter. She's 13. He's kind of like a single dad, and he's a drunk. But he's also this sort of mobster guy. And he has this right-hand dude, you know, who's his friend and his sort of driver and his second in command, or his consigliere, or whatever you want to call it. And Dion Costello played that role. And there's a scene in the movie where I am telling my daughter that she has to go away to boarding school because I've gotten myself in so much trouble with the law that now she's sort of directly involved in a she's not an accessory, but she's relevant to this murder case. And it's like, you gotta go. She's like, you're trying to get rid of me, is what you're saying. It's like, I'm not trying to get rid of you. It's just complicated, you know? And Dion is in the scene. And this other guy who's my brother is in the scene. And they sort of take over for me. I kind of turn into Fredo from Godfather 2. I just can't cope with the situation. And I let these guys parent the kid for me. They are telling her stuff. And she's like, no one cares about what I want. No one, I don't believe what's happening, you know, here, and like, no one cares about me. And Dion, his name's Eddie in the movie. Eddie goes to her and says, what are you talking about? I care about you. I care about you. You're my hero. And he hugs her. And every time we did that scene about 4 or 5 times, and every time he said to her, you're my hero, I've started crying because, like, his father was my hero. And I was like, where's the camera? Why isn't the camera like right fucking here right now? You know, it's like we were doing this master shot. I'm like, oh God, I can't believe this. I can't believe this is happening. Like, I'm not this isn't acting.
Yeah.
Like I went over, like he's hugging her, and I kind of leaned forward to try to be part of the moment. I was like, I need a hug.
Completely out of character, you mean?
But it was all part of the scene.
Yeah.
It all worked in the context of the scene.
Yeah.
And I was kind of aware of that while it was happening. It was like, and I cried harder as I was, you know, you might say I became self-conscious while the camera was rolling, self-conscious of the parallels between real life and the you know, the conceit of the story. And it was all, it's like, I can't go wrong right now. Like, every emotion that I'm having right now is appropriate to the scene here, but it's coming at a tremendous cost because it was a long scene. And when we would finally cut, I was just like, I thought I was going crazy.
Yeah.
Because I was just filled with rage and sadness, and I was thinking about John, and I was thinking about my daughter, my real daughter, and like, what would I do in this situation if this was my real daughter, if this kid was my daughter? And this was also like the first, this wasn't supposed to be on the schedule for like a couple of weeks. It ended up being the first scene we shot.
Wow.
Because we were going to lose the location. And like, we're going to have we're going to shoot the end of the movie first because if we don't, we're going to lose this backyard patio.
Oh God. So you had to totally adjust for that.
And I hardly knew the the kid playing my daughter, because they had to recast the part 2 days before we started shooting.
Oh my God.
And I had hung out with the other actress.
trying to get.
Well, the director wanted us to get together.
Yeah.
She's like, I want you to teach you how to play pool. So we met at the Amsterdam Billiards Club down on 11th Street. And I got to know this kid and her mother. And it was like...
and what happened with her? Why did she not end up doing it? Or is that something we can't talk about?
I don't know.
Okay.
I actually don't know.
But anyway, so
they recast the kid.
Yeah.
And I didn't meet her until the day we were working together.
Action.
Until in the heaviest part heaviest part of the movie.
This is independent filmmaking. Like, this is not uncommon, right? This kind of bullshit.
No.
But what do you do, Kev? Because you gotta fill that gap in seconds, right? Because the camera's about to roll.
Yeah.
What did you do?
I thought of something Jodie Foster said once she directed that movie Little Man Tate.
Yeah. And
she told that kid, the lead actor in the movie, who was her little boy in the movie.
Yeah.
And she said, acting is just pretending really hard. And I just pretended really hard that this kid was my daughter, and that we've known each other for 13 years and been through everything together. And let me tell you, she was pretty great. Actually, it was not hard to get where I needed to go, because she was going there too. And so was Dion. And so was this guy who was playing my brother. We were doing a play. We were like it was like a play, and it was like there's no option to not get this right.
Right. And it sounds like because of the emotions around your departed friend John and his son right there, and combined with the idea that you're thrust into this, that actually stirred up the right ingredients, maybe. Right? Yeah. It's like that. Like, that's not unheard of for that to happen in that way.
I don't know. I mean, it's never happened that way for me ever. Like, things have. But I just was, what I'm worried about now is that I never looked at the the monitor to see. Maybe once or twice I was like, oh wow, okay, oh wow, it looks interesting. The DP is very good. It was like I felt a sense of reassurance about the look of the movie. But I was just trying to inhabit the character without worrying too much about what the movie looked like. Yeah. And I was worried about being fucking overweight and stuff. It's like, what the fuck, man? This is like probably the best part I've had in a movie in 10 years, And I fucking look like shit, and I felt like shit too, like just fucking digestion and stuff, drinking a lot, and I'm like thinking, this is the character's an alcoholic, so it'd be an inconvenient time to stop drinking. Might as well just keep going. And I just was like, I allowed the line to become blurry,
Yeah.
And it was like, I thought a lot of what Christopher Walken said about like playing. He's like, the first time I ever played a king, the first time, how many times has he done that? But he says, you let people, you don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Because the other actors are going to bow down to you because they're supposed to. It's in the fucking script.
Yeah.
You just have to sit there and be the king. And I'm always thinking, like, if I'm playing like a gangster or a tough guy or something, like, no fucking real life tough guy would ever confuse me with being one of them, you know, like. But yes, that's I've played that role about 6 times this year.
This year,
I've had a pretty good year, actually. Out of all these interviews that we've done, this past year has probably been my most active.
Oh wow!
Year.
Oh wow!
I worked on beginning in December of 2023. I played J. Edgar Hoover.
Oh, I think you were preparing for that
in a movie called Killing Castro. And I don't know if it's coming. I don't know if any of these things are coming out. See, that's the thing. It's like I've been very busy, but I don't know that any of this stuff is ever going to be seen.
Yeah.
You know,
that's beyond your control.
It is.
Yeah.
Like a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know, like
you do your part and that's it.
Do your part, learn your lines, hit your mark. You do the best you can, you know.
So wait, why do you think that this has been a good year? I mean, like, first of all, you're just saying like I'm a fat fuck or something like that. Like these people don't, like, it's not like they don't know if you're getting all these roles, then maybe that's good, whatever your look is.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
why mess with anything?
True. I kind of. You know, I'm about just fishing for like people to tell me, you look great.
Yeah, you definitely do not look like a fat fuck.
Well, I think I've grown into it. You know, I'm about 205 pounds now. Now, like in 2018, I stepped on a scale at a friend's house. And it said 207. I was like, is there something wrong with your scale? Fucking thing says, it was my friend Tim Williams, actually. He's the Trivago guy. He got on the scale, and I was like, 164? You're as fucking chunky as me. Unless I'm like, fuck, am I talk about like body dysmorphia or something. It's like where you see something that no one else sees it. I mean, when I look in the mirror, I see maybe somebody that the rest of the world just doesn't see. And when I talk about it, they're like, you're crazy. But anyway, like I did have one, like old friend of mine who saw me on an episode of Bull. You know, the show Bull. So I was like a guy who's like testifying in court or something. And when I saw myself in the episode of that show, I was like, I have to change my life. It was just awful, you know. And then I ran into an old friend who said, "Yeah, I saw you on that. You look like shit. You look good now." I was like, "Well, I stopped drinking." And about 6 months 7 months had gone by. He goes, it's good that you stopped because you didn't look too good in that episode. And Carolyn and I were watching the show and we said, hey, it's Kevin, look at him. Oh my God, you know, like, so the guy was honest with me about it, you know? And but I'm the same weight now that I was then. So maybe the reason I look like shit had nothing to do with my weight.
Right.
Maybe it just had to do with my state of mind or where I was.
I believe in that.
Emotionally or something. Or maybe I just, had kind of, maybe I just wasn't, maybe my work was bad, or maybe I was just off the rails. Not really just like, because that was an offer, like sometimes I get offered a part and I'll show up and phone it in, sort of, which, makes it sound like, that I have some kind of technique where I can, deliver the goods when I don't really feel like it. But that's not true. If I show up and I feel kind of diffident or kind of like,
Yeah.
that's how it comes off.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, some people can. Well, actually, I don't think so. I think, but even Marlon Brando, who was when he was
phoning it in, you're saying you could tell.
You could tell.
Yeah.
And I think.
What about Superman? Like, wasn't he phoning that in? But if you watch that again, it's not that bad as people made it sound like. No, that was the ultimate phone in, though, right?
Yeah.
On paper,
like he said so. He was like, I just did it. I did it for the money.
Yeah.
And he's like, I made some real dogs. What do I care?
Yeah.
Just go.
But I remember seeing that recently and thinking, this is not that bad. Like if you didn't know, like this is. I remember not knowing that was Brando. I remember when I was young, seeing it as a very young man. I remember my mother was saying something like, "Oh my God, it's Marlon Brando!" Like I don't think she knew he was in it, and I didn't know who that was that she was talking about. I remember this. Now you're watching it thinking that's Marlon Brando, and then you're seeing it with a whole other. I think if he didn't put that on there, he would totally pass as the character. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure it's totally right. Like you could tell. Maybe you could tell he's phoning it in because you're in the Brando scale, but not in the acting scale. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think he can do things in his sleep that are passable.
I think you're right. Here's something I often think of. It's like a metaphor for what we're talking about. In the movie, The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
They want the money.
Yeah.
The hijackers want the money, or they're going to kill somebody. Robert Shaw, and he's on the radio with Walter Matthau.
Walter Matthau, yeah.
And Walter Matthau's like, look, you gotta give us a little more time. We gotta, it's a lot of money to, we gotta count all that, and it's gonna take a while. And Robert Shaw's like, no, you got about fucking 1 hour to get that money down here. And he goes like, it's just not physically possible. He goes, you'd be surprised what's physically possible. And so the race is on to get this done, and the clock runs out.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that moment where Matthau's like, oh shit, wait a minute. They're in the fucking subway. They're down in the tunnel. They don't know. Mm-hmm. And he's like, Pelham 1, 2, 3, the money's arrived. Mm-hmm. He just bluffs.
Yeah.
They haven't arrived, but they don't know it. They're down in the tunnel. Yeah. And Shaw comes back on the line. It's like, you made it just in time, didn't you? But they're still not. The money still hasn't arrived. So I feel like that sometimes with acting. Mm-hmm. It's like no one has to know.
Yeah, exactly.
That I don't know what I'm doing.
Exactly. Or that you don't know that you just met this teenager that day.
No one has to know that we just met. No one. It's all that exists is the illusion that we're creating in this frame.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's another. I think John Huston said to. John Huston brought this guy over to look through the lens of the camera after they had spent 2 hours setting up the shot. He's like, come here, Bobby. Now look through that lens. What do you see? Just have a look there. Now you have to figure out, you have to ask yourself, what's missing? What needs to be in there? Now that the shot has been set up, the lighting is all set up, the last missing element is you. Mm-hmm. You have to walk into that frame and decide what needs to be there that isn't there right now. This blank canvas. Mm-hmm. Now it's your turn to put something into the picture. Mm-hmm. And for someone like Marlon Brando, or any actor, you know, like any, you have to. I mean, you know, you're a work of art. You know, like an actor is, you know, especially like Marlon Brando could do no wrong. He was such a beautiful man.
Yeah.
So it's, and his voice was so, you know, it wouldn't matter if he read the phone book to you.
Yeah.
It would be
Interesting
and satisfying and titillating and just erotic and exciting and funny and like everything.
Yeah.
Emotional and he didn't have to do that much to elicit those sensations in the audience. You know, he knew what he was just like, you know, with very little effort, you know, he could, I think, you know, acting is kind of like, it's sleight of hand, you know.
Yes.
It's a bit of like, you know, you don't have to overthink it, you know.
Right.
In fact, the less you think about it, sometimes the better it is.
Right. But you do have to practice the sleight of hand. I mean, let's stay with this analogy. You do have to practice it, don't you?
Yeah. It's a lot of trial and error. You know, it's like George Carlin has this line about like rain dance. You know, the Native American, they used to have this rain dance.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it make sense wouldn't they have had rain dance practice? I mean, wouldn't it stand to reason that they would have to kind of practice before they got it? They built up to getting it right, you know? And if it rains during practice,
they're doing good.
Why have a rain dance at all? Just call practice.
Never heard
so
that.
if this is just another way of saying let's shoot the rehearsal.
Exactly.
It's funny because like I've never been so conscious of people saying back to one as I have been in the past year. I'm like, wow, that really is a good title for a show. That really works. You were going to call this show The Work?
Yes, I was.
But there was already a show called The
That's
Work?
right.
That's weird. What happened to that show?
I just was mad about that the other day.
Back to one is better. I mean, it's
I'm happy you think that.
It says it all. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
Let's start again.
And that's why I like the introduction. You're just an actor. Let's talk. Back to one. Back to the beginning. Acting. That's all. Not an award person or whatever the fuck, your resume. No. Back to one. The actor. Boom. Done.
Yeah.
But wait. That rain dance thing. I know we're laughing, but it's something interesting about that. Because at one point, like, you know, they're rehearsing and then it rains. And you got to think, oh, we just wasted it because we didn't need it right now. Is that the same thing with filming the rehearsal? Do you know what I mean? Like you were feeling during when that camera wasn't on you and you were crying, and it's like, why the fuck is there a wide shot here? I'm getting emotional. Is this the kind of thinking that has to go on? Like, oh, you should be capturing this. Oh fuck, we did it right on that rehearsal. Fuck, now how are we gonna do it again? Or should we stop even thinking about right and wrong? That's part of our problem.
Well, I felt like I was lighting one cigarette with the butt end of the last cigarette, you know?
Yeah.
In that situation. There were two masters that they were doing. The director's name is Carrie Ann Enright. And she, if she thought something was working, she would go with like a one take, like I don't know, we could do one for safety, and sometimes she would forego coverage if she thought the master worked.
Wow.
I'm hoping that's the case with this scene that we shot, where it was like there was two masters, but it was a long scene, and it just I had to use my sense of dread when we did take two, I was like, oh shit, we have to do this again. I can't think of anything I would rather do less than to do this scene again. Like, I'm frightened.
Yeah.
I'm really upset.
Yeah.
That I have to go there again. And I thought of Brando too in the interview with Connie Chung when she's asking him why he never went back to the theater. And he wouldn't even answer the question. She had to volunteer an answer. He goes, I think I know why. And he goes, go ahead, tell me, why do you think I didn't? And she's like, because because of the repetition, because of having to do it, because you didn't like he goes, it's not that I didn't like it, it's that I hated it. And he just opens up, and he's like, I just thought I was going to go out of my mind. You know, and that he broke his nose during the run of Streetcar Named Desire, really? And was in the hospital for 2 weeks, where he wasn't supposed to be there longer than a few days, but as his like bruising and the discoloration started to go away, he was expecting a visit from the producer, so he had a friend go and get him like some Stein's makeup. Oh. He was like, get me some rouge and get me this and that. And then he put it on his face to make himself look like he was still beat up and fucked up. So when the producer came up, he was like, Irene, when are they going to let me out of this place? And she's like, you stay right there. You're not going anywhere until you're well again. And he goes, and it was the best 2 weeks of my life because I didn't have to work.
Oh, wow.
Because I had to find that emotion every night. Mm-hmm. I had to upset myself every night. Every performance required like that he fucking beat himself up. Yeah. And like I felt that way with this scene. It was just like, I mean, I think I exaggerated the feeling too. It was like, I'll get through this. I know what I'm doing here. Yeah. I know my lines. I know the scene. I know what it means to me. That's the problem, is like, I know how to the degree to which I have personalized this material. And I'm going to pretend really fucking harder than I ever have to make it real to me. And, you know, having Dion there put me very, very close to this sense memory. Yeah. Like I've never experienced like such a thrashing. Yeah. Emotionally, you know, as far as like bringing back feelings. Yeah. I let something loose, you know. It was like a Ouija board seance kind of thing. Yeah. Where it was like fucking Jason Miller and The Exorcist. Come into me! Come into me! Take me! Yeah. Like I was like let it happen. Yeah. Do your worst, universe. Yeah. I'm ready.
I'm the vessel here. Yeah.
I am this character.
Yeah.
This movie is going to be convincing. It's gonna work. It's gonna work because I am going to believe in it so much. Like, this is like, it's obvious, you know. Mm-hmm. It's like I know what my relationship is to the other people in the situation here. Like, let's fucking do this. Yeah. You know, like, you know, you're asking yourself, what would I do? What would I do? If, you know, like, it's the most basic kind of acting advice is to, you know, like, well, just think about what you would do. You're in this situation here right now. Yeah. You're sending your daughter away because of these circumstances that are pretty terrible, but you have to be accountable or not. You know, may decide to delegate your responsibility to someone else.
Yeah.
How fucking terrible! How awful does that feel?
Yeah.
And it was like, I can't believe. Is this what it says in the script? I actually kind of just flake out here.
Yeah.
Oh fuck! This sucks. This guy sucks. What a bad father.
Yeah.
And I was like, am I reading this right?
Yeah.
This is what we're shooting? This is the story we're telling? I get it. I mean, I have felt like, am I a bad father?
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Am I a bad, like if now's the time to put myself out there.
Yeah.
With those feelings of
Yeah.
shame and
Yeah.
of anger and confusion.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have a lot of lines in the scene. The rest of the actors did, but I had to sit there like. Anyway, and it was, the sense of connection I had, actor to material.
Yeah.
It was pretty strong because once we moved in to get the coverage, close-ups and stuff, I was spent. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't keep going.
Yeah.
I told that to the director. She goes, "No, it was great." I'm like, "Well, I don't think so. I felt like I had lost it after we shot the Masters. Like I just didn't want to do it anymore. Like I just didn't want. I stopped."
Well, that's a case for doing the close-ups first, isn't it?
Well, that is a case for doing I mean, it's just like I couldn't even remember my lines after we shot like I just shut down.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like really uncomfortable now.
Yeah.
Like I just feel like I'm reliving like somebody's death.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
It's like
it's hard.
Anyway, that was this movie called Tiger.
Was there any other significant experiences on the other films this year, Kev?
I worked on there's a TV show. It's coming on in March or February called The Hunting Party. And it's like a detective show. Anyway, I play there's this different serial killer every week. And I got to go to Vancouver, which was nice, and work on this show. And I played like the killer of the week. And it was all a lot of fun. Oh. And I just did some looping for it a week ago and was dreading watching it. I haven't actually seen any of these things that I've worked on, but I did get to watch a couple of scenes. I had an hour's worth of looping to do on this thing.
Wow, so you're seeing a lot of it.
I saw 3 or 4 scenes. And, I remember at the time we were shooting it, it was like, the camera's going to put like 20 pounds on me. It looks like, fuck it. Just you can't be worried about that,
Yeah.
And but then I was worried about it when I went to the looping. I was like, am I going to hate this? Am I going to be able to? Am I going to be able to loop this thing? I won't be able to watch it if I find my. But I loved it. I thought it was pretty
nice.
And there was like there was one scene where I made up all the lines in the scene, and they left it in. This is like an NBC.
That's so cool.
Sort of cop procedural type show.
That's unusual, right?
It is unusual. It is unusual.
Is it even unusual for them to give you the opportunity to do that? Never mind use it, but on these procedurals, they don't even want you to mess around with a take and do a bunch of stuff that's not in the script, right?
There were certain things that needed to be rounded out. And once we, put it on its feet, those problems,
They become apparent.
and it's like, oh yeah, what are we going to do about that? And I just would make those decisions in the moment, I'm kind of following this lady. We live in the same building, and she's carrying some groceries, and an apple falls out of her bag. And so there's a close-up of my foot stopping the apple rolling. I pick it up, and I bring it to her. And she is like, oh, thank you. And she's having trouble opening her door. And then I volunteer to let me help you here. And I help her open the door. Door opens, and she goes in. And then I follow her into the apartment. And she's one of the victims.
Yeah.
But I just sort of, was inclined to sort of flesh out these moments,
Yeah.
where it's like, I think your apple was trying to escape. Hand it to her, because I was thinking of Peter O'Toole in The Last Emperor when he's teaching the kid, he's having his his English lesson or something, and the kid has a mouse, like a pet mouse, and Peter O'Toole says, "I think your mouse is trying to escape." And he's like, "Oh, please don't tell anybody about my mouse. He's not allowed to have it," or something like that. But I threw that in there. And then she walks into the apartment without saying anything because she had no lines. But
it makes no sense.
It's like, she didn't even say thank you.
Yeah.
And I walked in after her, but I ad-libbed the line, like she didn't even say thank you.
Yeah.
Like I was like,
it's just weird.
So for me, it was like that's right there justifies the murder.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was ad-libbed,
Right.
The actress playing the part was just, trying to get in and out of there. And it didn't occur to her to say anything.
Right.
Because there was nothing, she had no scripted lines.
Right.
Anyway, I mean, there's that. There's I worked on a movie with Alexander Rockwell. He made the movie In the Soup with Seymour Cassell and Buscemi. This is a movie called The Projectionist, and I had a part in that. I worked on a TV series called Deli Boys with Purna Jagannathan.
Oh yeah, she's great.
And Asif Ali. It's a comedy. I played like a Philly mob boss in that. And I worked on an episode of Poker Face that was written and directed by Natasha Lyonne.
Oh.
Which...
Is this the first time you guys are working together in a while?
Yes. This
is your good friend?
Yes.
Oh my God. Did she specifically want you to be in this?
Yeah.
How would that feel like, Kev?
I was beyond flattering, and it meant a lot to me. It really did. It was... But nothing prepared me for the experience of working with Natasha, the director. She is a director, like in the truest sense of the word. Like she's grown into this. Has this whole other skill set now.
Wow.
Where it was like, boy, it's been a while since I've like, when did she become like an auteur?
Yeah.
She was, I've like never seen someone so in command of a set. Maybe, Scorsese is the only person I can think of. Well, I actually Alexander Rockwell's too is that way. But this is someone who's is the author of the script and is living the script.
Yeah.
Is acting, is performing the script at all times.
Mm-hmm.
And is doing everyone's job.
Mm-hmm.
She knew the DP's job. She knew the makeup artist's job. Like I was aware that, like, you know, the respect that everyone from every department had for Natasha.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I was getting my hair done, I wore like did I have like a wig? I had like kind of like a fake beard on or something like but I got to was sort of immersed in this sort of world of this one episode of the show. It was the season premiere, I think. And but she would block the way she would block the scenes. I mean, it was I would say that, like, most directors kind of, you know, they will delegate these responsibilities because they can.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to.
Yeah.
But Natasha was like scrupulous and obsessed with the details of the episode and of her part and of my part and of everyone's role, and was like her own dramaturg, you know. And just, you know, was working at such a high level of intelligence and acute attention and like just like a scrupulous storytelling ability and drive to, you know. I was in awe. I was kind of, it was a little daunting, you know. And sometimes I was sort of worried for her, you know, that she was like playing so hard. You know, it was like watching a tennis pro.
Yeah.
Just pushing themselves to the limit. It's like,
yeah,
you know, be careful. It was really hot out too. There was this one afternoon we were out in the parking lot in Staten Island. It was fucking hot as fucking hell. It was so hot. And it was like one of those days where it was like, everybody hydrate, okay? You know, it was a perfect day to, you know, to pass out from heat exhaustion. And she looked like she was, you know, right in the thick of that intensity. And we had a scene together too, so she's acting in this thing as well. You know? And it was like, shit, man, I better fucking know my lines, man. I want to fucking, because she was like, you know, I think I was a little like kind of, you know, sort of knew the lines, but not completely. But I kind of pulled it together because I didn't want to upset her. You know, she was kind of like, we have to, you know, we got to be on the ball here.
She said that.
We got this production we had to move to another location. We have to get this in the next like 10 minutes and stuff. You know, it's like, yeah. I felt like, God, I don't want to disappoint her. You know, like that's like, you know, when you feel that way about a director, it's like, that's a, you know, like
it's a good feeling to have, I guess. Yeah.
But it was also like, you know, it was, I was kind of astonished, you know, like to see someone that I've known that long. Like I've knew her at a time in her life when she didn't have things under control. So to see her now, where she has seemingly everything under control, it made me question myself, you know, like what the fuck am I doing with my life? I'm watching her watching this friend of mine achieve her full potential. Like, and I it's like, have I done that? No, I have not crossed that threshold myself. And but I'm glad she's doing it, and I'm glad she invited me into the situation so that I could witness it and be part of it. I'm just like blown away by the level of work that Natasha is doing these days.
And have you seen his 3 daughters?
Yeah. Oh,
amazing?
yeah.
Amazing work in that.
Oh my God, she's just heartbreaking in that movie.
Yeah.
She's just on fire. She's so fucking talented. It's outrageous.
Yeah.
How good she is.
What's it like to act for your daughter?
I texted her last night to ask her if she remembered. There's this time, I believe both my parents were still alive. It was either at my mother's house, like around Christmas, or maybe my in-laws. But I had to read to her, and she was maybe 5 years old at the time. And so I'm like sitting on the floor with this book, and she's sitting in my lap, and I used to, sort of nod out,
Yeah.
I was terrible at being like the dad who reads to his kid, because I would just sort of start nodding out. It wasn't because I was bored. It was because I think I had like a sugar thing or something, like I would just, my energy, that happens now. It still happens. I'm falling asleep right now.
I know what you mean.
You know what I mean?
It happens to me. I almost can't watch anything, even something I like, without falling asleep. Even if I'm enjoying it, I'm like, damn, I'm enjoying this. Why am I falling asleep?
I know. It's like, why am I so tired all the time?
Yeah.
All kinds of things pop up on my phone. These phones, they listen to us.
Yeah.
And they follow, all the time I'm getting stuff like, it's like liver stuff. Try this pill, It's your pancreas. You need to, do calisthenics and, or I don't know, like, so anyway, I used to like nod out and Sadie would be like, read, Daddy. Like, oh, fuck, sorry, yeah. And down to the, so I was reading Shel Silverstein, The Giving Tree. Now, I had never read that book until I read it to my daughter, like right around Christmas or something, and in my mother's house. And as I got further and further into the book, the books what The Giving Tree is about, it's just like they keep cutting, limbs off this thing until it's just like a stump.
Yeah.
And the child grows to see this tree reduced to nothing, and it's like that's our mother, and so anyway, I got really choked up as I was reading this book and discovering this, like, as I was seeing where the story was going. I was just like, I started crying, and I couldn't keep going. I just was like, couldn't keep reading it. And I think Sadie thought I was nodding out. She was like, read, Daddy. I was fully engaged with the idea behind the Giving Tree. It made me so sad that I couldn't talk. I could hardly go on. Anyway, I told her, do you remember that? And she says she does remember it. I said, if I ever make a movie, that's going to be a scene in the movie. And she goes, well, you should write your movie then. But yeah, working for Sadie is a little bit like working for Natasha, where I felt sort of daunted by the level of maturity. And You know, it's like I'm not the big shot anymore. You know,
Yeah.
The whole illusion of, you know, me being, you know, this, you know, well, whatever, however she was sort of perceived me, you know, growing up, like my dad's an actor,
Yeah.
whatever, he goes to work, that's what he does for a living, and it's like some big thing,
Yeah.
but it's not, you know, really, when I'm working for her, you know, all that sleight of hand and all that kind of like, you know,
It doesn't quite work the same, does it?
she's like, so this is what you've been doing all these years. Like nothing, basically. You just show up. You don't know your lines until like right before we shoot. It's like, well, I'm not having that. You know, you better learn your lines. Because she's, you know, she knows how to make a movie.
Yeah.
From, you know, she knows the nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah.
Like she knows how to hot wire like a car or something like that.
Yeah.
Gets this thing up and running. She knows how to get people involved, you know,
Yeah.
put a crew together. She's raised, you know, she crowdfunded her first short film.
Yeah.
And then she wrote this feature script called If That Mockingbird Don't Sing. And it's like, there's this whole concept behind it. I mean, she was inspired by the Roe v. Wade decision to make this story about a 19-year-old girl who gets pregnant and decides ultimately to have the baby, not to keep the baby.
Mm-hmm.
She has the baby and then puts the baby up for adoption. So now this is an autobiographical film, except for that part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's about like these sort of relationships in her life that she's had with these boys, and I knew these guys. So when I read the script, it was like that's a pretty good depiction of. It's pretty accurate, you know.
Wow.
Like you know, she captured sort of lightning in a bottle with this thing. It's a little bit like Lady Bird and a little bit like Juno and a little bit like the TV shows and movies that I know she's a fan of, you know.
Who do you play?
I play like a not a foster parent, but like a guy who runs a sort of a daycare service with his wife, and the lead character visits them one afternoon. Like the sister brings her. You should meet this lady. You know, that's all they do all day long is like take care of kids from the neighborhood. So that their parents go off to work, they leave their kids with, you know, and like I come in the door with like this child. I would just, you know, this is what I wore, like sunglasses and a fedora and a fucking army jacket, because that's what I was wearing. Those are my real clothes. And Sadie thought that was good enough. And I remember telling her, like, when I watched the scene, you know, when I come in, it's like, I look like I'm like we're kidnapping these, I look like a kidnapper or something. And she thought that was just fine. You know, she was like, that's okay. But it's like, you know, it's the only scene that I'm in the middle of the film.
Was she hard on you?
She was easy on me, actually. You know, she just...
You gave her good work.
Yeah. Yeah, she wanted me to improvise a little bit.
Yeah. So
I did. And, but I'm supposed to be like a pot dealer, too. So it's like I'm watching the neighborhood kids, but I'm also a pot dealer. And
so it sounds like she got bit by this bug of a filmmaker, the bug of the show business, basically.
Yeah. I mean,
and how do you feel about that?
I'm very proud of her. You know, she took to it like a fish. You know, she was just like. Watching her she had her video monitor and was very comfortable telling people, directing people, and It was pretty impressive. Like, and so I would like to think that it has something to do with, you know, all like the sort of movies that I made her watch.
Yeah.
When she was a little kid.
Yeah.
You know, like I had read I used to like to read Camille Paglia.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
You read that to her?
No, but Camille Paglia said in an interview that the first movie she ever saw was Yankee Doodle Dandy, and she was like, you know, 6 or something. Mm-hmm. And Sadie was 6 years old when I read this interview, and I decided that I would show her that movie.
Nice. And
she loved it. She watched it. We watched that about 5 times together.
Wow.
And I felt confident enough after a while to show her Angels with Dirty Faces. Uh-huh. And she was 8 years old.
Wow.
And she has never forgiven me for showing her that movie at that age, because she's like, you didn't tell me how this movie ends. I'm like, why would I tell you how the movie ends? Why would I tell you how? She's like, it was traumatizing for her, not because he goes to the electric chair. It's because Rocky betrays himself. He's forced to betray himself. Mm-hmm. He pretends to be a coward at the end when he isn't. Mm-hmm. And we still have this argument today.
That's beautiful.
It's like he was doing it for those kids.
Yeah.
He didn't want the kids to end up following in his footsteps to being executed. He did it for them. Which is like, no, he should never have done that. It was terrible that they made him, you know, like Rocky Sullivan dies yellow, but it dies a yellow rat anyway. But like I showed her Harvey with James Stewart. I showed her Young Mr. Lincoln with Henry Fonda.
Oh, beautiful!
And
this is instilling not just great cinema, but there's a thing about life in these movies.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, it's not just like Little Mermaid shit or something. Right? Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying. No
Nothing
judgment.
wrong with that. No, and there was plenty of that too.
I'm sure.
There was like a lot of stuff that I tried to sort
pepper it with other stuff.
With other stuff like
that's great.
Like old stuff but yeah, she was like. I mean, she turned me on to a lot of things too. Like she showed me that movie Spirited Away. You know?
Yeah.
I was like, man, you really like this movie. What's going on here? What's the story? And she tells me the whole story. She's sort of like, she's a little, I don't know, maybe a bit OCD, you know, just where she, you know, where the sort of upshot is that she has nearly a photographic memory for details and story structure, and you know, during the lockdown, the pandemic, she just watched, you know, just consumed entire series. You know, watched every episode, every season of, say, Orange is the New Black, I think she watched like fucking 17 seasons of like Criminal Minds or something. Like she watched every season of Community.
Yeah,
you know, like stuff that I was in. You know?
You're in a Community at least once,
and I'm like, it's like
that's a great episode.
I had fun working on that. And like, so I'm like, and I like you know, it was kind of cool to talk with her about it, because it's like, you know more about the show than me. I've only seen the episodes I was in, but you've seen all 6 seasons. Like, which one is the best? You know? The Criminal Minds. What do you like about that show? What's your favorite episode? Who's like a really good actor? And she'll tell you, well, there was this one episode where this lady's on death row and she's really good. And we look it up and like, oh my God, she's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's a great actress.
Yeah.
And so she's got an eye for talent.
Yeah.
Sadie's a very good casting director.
That's cool. It must be cool for you to have your daughter grow into this great artist, you know, and like that you can relate to and talk to about stuff like this.
She knows what's up, you know,
Yeah.
and it is kind of life affirming, reassuring to know that I can count on being able to have a conversation like we're having.
Yeah.
About not just about films and acting and stuff, but about like music, for example. I'm always sending her, you know, like YouTube videos of like, you know, I sent her the other day the song "Love Stinks" by the Jay Giles band. Like, just I was like, I realized how much I love that song.
Yeah.
I don't know how it got in my head.
Yeah.
But I went and then listened to it and like, oh my God, this is great. What a great song.
Yeah.
So I sent it to her, like, put this on the list. She's got like a list.
Daddy recommendations?
Yes.
Yes.
She posted the you know, Big Kev's playlist on
That's what it's called.
on my birthday last year.
Nice.
And that was like I felt really honored and very like that's to me better than her coming home with a degree from some university, or like that she has a sincere connection to the music, good music, good through her own generation and her own upbringing too. Like that was like a real bonding experience, like a few, 6-7 years ago now. You know, right when things are sort of rocky, when these teenage girls, and, you know, like you kind of lose them for a while. You know, from about 13 to 18, they just. I remember a friend of mine telling me, like, "How old you doing?" This guy I grew up with. He had kids. He started way before me. So his children were grown when my daughter was just turning 12, 13, and was starting to rebel, you know. And Charlie Corns, he goes, "How old is she?" Yeah, it's all right. They come back. It's like, they do? When? He goes, 18. I'm like, oh no, man. I'm going to have to go through this for the next 5 years. It's going to be like this. But
he was right.
But there was a period of time where I asked Sadie, like, why don't you make me a playlist? You know? And so she made me like a playlist of like 150 songs. And I spent 2 weeks going through it all. You know, some of it was a real chore. But I narrowed it down. I made my own list of my top 20 favorite songs from the list of 100 that she gave me.
Yeah.
It led to a conversation. It was almost like when I kind of figured out how to talk to Martin Scorsese and how to talk to Christopher Walken, like where it was just like eureka, a eureka moment.
Yeah.
That it made the adulation go away.
Yeah.
Where I realized that, you know, Marty likes to talk about music, and that's it. You get on that subject, you're off to the we just talk about music. And with Walken, it's food. If you start talking about food, that's the way to get to know a person, you know. To get to know him anyway. It was like, it wasn't about like And with Sadie, we were able to sort of find our sort of common communication with music, and
that's beautiful.
I thought of this book last night by. Do you remember the? You know who Moss Hart is?
Sure.
So.
Act 1?
Yes, this is from that book, right? This is like set on like 3rd Avenue in the Bronx, the hub. You know, my mother used to have a job on right in that intersection when she was a teenager, and like my parents and their whole generation grew up around that neighborhood. But this is going back. This is before their time. We hurried on, our heads bent against the wind to the cluster of lights ahead that was 149th Street and Westchester Avenue. And those lights seemed to me the brightest lights I had ever seen. Tugging at my father's coat, I started down the line of push carts. There were all kinds of things that I wanted, but since nothing had been said by my father about buying a present, I would merely pause before a pushcart and say, with as much control as I could muster, "Look at that chemistry set." Or, "There's a stamp album." Or, "Look at that printing press." And each time my father would pause and ask the pushcart man the price, and without a word we would move on to the next pushcart. Once or twice he would pick up a toy of some kind and look at it and then at me as if to suggest this might be something I might like. But I was 10 years old and a good deal beyond just a toy. My heart was set on a chemistry set or a printing press. There they were on every pushcart we stopped at, but the price was always the same, and soon I looked up and saw we were nearing the end of the line. Only 2 or 3 more pushcarts remained. My father looked up too, and I heard him jingle some coins in his pocket. In a flash, I knew it all. He'd gotten together about 75 cents to buy me a Christmas present, and he hadn't dared to say so in case there was nothing to be had for so small a sum. As I looked up at him, I saw a look of despair and disappointment in his eyes that brought me closer to him than I had ever been in my life. I wanted to throw my arms around him and say, "It doesn't matter. I understand. This is better than a chemistry set or a printing press. I love you." But instead we stood shivering beside each other for a moment, and then turned away from the last 2 pushcarts and started silently back home. I remember reading that, I don't know, 10 years ago, that moment where he sees the look in his father's eyes.
Yeah.
Like, where he's like, "I broke.
Yeah.
Fucking broke. I can't even buy a present for my kid." And this that the kid, that made him love the man even more. The look of pain in his father's eyes.
Yeah. It's like that awareness made him a writer, you know what I mean? And an artist. Being able to process that and to be able to, know that about himself. How he was going through that with his father, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's something beautiful about being able to live that, something so painful and so powerful, but to be able to turn it into something that can affect you, and now you're giving it to us, you know what I mean? That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And speaking of what you've given us, Kevin, this is number 7. You've given us 7 of these. I know listeners are grateful, and I just want to tell you, once again, I'm grateful. Thank you, Kevin Corrigan.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back 7 times. I mean,
it's a tradition, baby.
Yeah, I think I wrote to you that this is probably the most meaningful honor in my acting so-called career. This is like an ongoing acknowledgement. It's pretty great, and I don't share it with any other actor. It's the one thing that I can really sort of regard as being, you know, mine exclusively.
Yes.
But and I have you to thank for that. So, happy Thanksgiving.
Yes.
And
you are what we're thankful for, Kevin, and I'm thankful for you. Happy Thanksgiving.
same to you.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of The Gotham. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.